I am here with actor Remington Hoffman, who many days of our lives, or well, all days of our lives viewers, like let's be clear, they saw you, played Lee on the show, who was unceremoniously knifed in the back,
Yeah.
then brought back. So before we dive into days of our lives, let's talk a little bit about when you decided to become an actor professionally.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks. Yeah. Let's see. I went to college to play college basketball, Division III college basketball in upstate New York. And my dad told me to join an acting class. So yeah, I had to for an elective, and I kind of always wanted to in high school. I remember talking to my friend who was in band with me, telling him we should be in the play, and he was like, "I'm never going to be in a play." And so I think I was kind of looking for someone to do it with me, and I was interested in it, but I never pursued it at all. I joined the acting class, Acting 101, and then we had to audition for the school play. And I just went up there and read the scene and left and didn't think about it. And the director wanted to cast me as the lead in a play called Fat Pig by Neil LaBute or
Yeah,
Neil LaBute. I don't know. People pronounce his name differently.
I actually saw
But
that in New York.
it's an amazing play.
Yeah.
I feel super, I mean, looking back on it now, and doing the play that I'm doing now, I feel super grateful that I got to do that play as my first play. I told the director I wasn't going to do it. I was like, "Hey man, I'm here to study business. I'm here to just play basketball. I was just taking this class for fun or whatever."
Yeah.
And he really pushed me and he was like, "Hey, I think you're really going to enjoy it." He's like, "It could be a really great life experience for you." He's all, "I think you should definitely do this." And then I agreed to do it, and I just fell in love with theater and acting and the whole thing. Even like the community, the people, I got along better probably socially with all of the people in the theater than I did even with my basketball teammates.
Interesting.
Um, they were great. Like I love my basketball teammates. I'll still talk to them every once in a while, but there was something about that like kind of quirky, vulnerable, very dramatic, but like heart on your sleeve kind of people that I was hanging out with in the theater, which is the exact opposite, I feel like, of a jock, that I really resonated with. And I just fell in love with the whole thing. And I, dropped out of business school and I moved back home for a year and finished junior college and kept taking acting classes and theater classes in college. And I moved here to LA and just started when I was 20, just trying to do whatever I could to audition and get agents and figure out how to take acting classes. And I took a bunch of acting classes at Santa Monica College here, and dance classes and music classes and singing classes, and kind of gave myself my own little like theater school at Santa Monica Junior College here in LA. And that's how it started.
When you first dove in, did you want to focus solely on theater, or were you in it for all of it? Movies, film, TV?
I was super intimidated by movies and film and television. I didn't think that I could ever really be on television or in movies and do that. I knew that I really just liked acting, and I knew that before that I had really fallen in love with basketball when I was a little kid, and I had this major life goal of achieving playing college basketball, and it kind of worked out well that I found this new passion right as I kind of achieved that goal. And I
Mm.
wasn't going to go any farther in my basketball career. And I mean, I barely made the team. So like, but I did it. You know what I mean? I did
You
it.
made it.
Yeah, I made it. Yeah.
Apparently is
And
still on.
yeah, I was still on. I was still on big time. And I had some good games. I had some good games and I played well and I feel like I exceeded my expectations, which was like a big thing for me. And and then I just fell in love with acting, and I was gonna really just go to theater school. I was looking at schools kind of like outside of New York City to do a theater program, and then I was going to go to New York City and try to do summer stock and try to do plays, and that was kind of my plan, really. And who really influenced me was my brother. I have a younger brother named Forrest, and he's also in the industry and an actor and things like that. And he was the one who was in high school and he was like, "Oh, you like acting?" And he's all, "Well, I'm going to graduate from high school next year." He's all, "We should move to LA and you should just like go for the big time if you're going to do it." And so that was one of those really like quintessential kind of golden nuggets that was helpful for me, that brought me here and had me much more dive into like film and television and things like that as opposed to theater. But I love both of them.
What was your first role that you booked professionally?
The first role I booked professionally was I was handsome man number two, I think, in Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
Hmm.
It's we shot on the Fox lot. I'm not sure if it was a Fox show. But yeah, it was this sitcom called Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. And I had one line, and my line was, "You're so strong, May."
Hmm.
And yeah, and I got to book that, and I got to go and work, and I got to go on the Fox lot, which is legendary. It's been around for I think over 100 years now, and I'm really into old Hollywood history and stuff too, so that stuff really like touches me when I get to go and experience that. And yeah, yeah, that was my first role.
And you know what I like about you is you're so humble. You were number two behind my handsome guy number one. So I appreciate your humility in that. I didn't want to brag that I was number one, but since we're comfortable with each other now.
Totally, totally, Brian. Yeah, it was so great. I have to say, like, it's so great meeting you at the Days event, and it's just I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm really uh, glad that you invited me to do this interview, and I'm super glad to be hanging out with you again.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I've been wanting to interview you for a while. Just got my new mouth today. Sorry about that. When who brought Days of Our Lives to your attention? Did you self-submit? Did your manager say, "Hey, there's a great part coming up"? Especially in daytime, there are very few Asian leading men uh,
hmm
on on daytime. What about you? What about that role intrigued you the most?
Oh, I mean, I was so happy to audition for Li Shin and to end up playing Li Shin because I felt like he was like cool and he was a powerful character.
Hmm.
He comes in as being the newest board member of Demera, and um I felt like that was really progressive of them to like write this kind of like powerful leading-esque Asian man character.
Hmm.
Um and so yeah, and like to be a businessman, I thought was so cool. And I got to wear three-piece suits, and I never worn a three-piece suit before, and that was a really fun thing for me. And yeah, I was just really glad to even be auditioning for Marnie, who's the casting director, and I had auditioned for her for I had probably met her like 7 years before. I booked Li Shin, and I had auditioned for her a few times. And one of my probably worst auditions ever was for her, I think. I went in and I was quite a bit younger and I was really sick. I had a bad cold, and I just remember not being able to remember my lines and kind of like pushing too much or whatever. And I remember leaving thinking, oh, well, I'm never gonna be on Days of Our Lives. Like that's never gonna happen. Um, but she's a really kind person, and she kind of just kept a tab on me. And I also auditioned for the character that Christopher Sean originally
Oh, for
played.
Paul. Uh-huh.
Yeah, for Paul. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've known Christopher Sean since way before either of us were on anything. We used to audition for commercials together because we look similar. We have similar ethnic background. And him and I would always like hang out after the castings, and we'd audition for like Popeye's Chicken or whatever, you Taco Bell, and stuff. And yeah, I remember when he booked Days of Our Lives, and I remember when I auditioned for Paul's character as well. And then I would hang out with Christopher Sean because he was running like an acting class at his apartment where we would just like actors would get together and we'd run scenes and stuff. And he was on Days of Our Lives full time, and he was kind of explaining to me like the contract, like the workload, kind of how he preps, how he does things. And I think little things like that were helpful for me because it made it seem more like attainable. Like when you see someone that you know and you've known for a long time doing something, and they can kind of give you advice about what they've been going through, that makes it seem more real, and that I'm able to actually do it. And it's
Yeah.
not something outside of me really.
And especially the
Yeah,
fast-paced nature of Days and the
yeah.
advanced shooting schedule that they follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that shooting schedule. That's the best. That's like one of the best working jobs. And I know other actors who've been on multicam sitcoms, and they say that's the best. And I think that between the two, it's such a great shooting schedule. The fact that you start every day at the same time, you end every day pretty much at the same time. You have regular breaks, you have a regular lunch. That's really, really seldom in our industry. And as you get more into our industry and stuff, like I love watching shows and movies that are shot in the dark or at night. But when you really start doing actual night shoots, especially for someone like me who I really enjoy sleeping. It does like mess with your body. Your circadian rhythm gets messed up and all this stuff. And to be able to just go and work and leave and go and work and leave, it's a huge blessing. Soap opera acting is incredible.
Well, Connie made sure that Lee slept permanently.
Yeah,
Probably not
totally.
the sleeping you had in mind. How long did it take you to get into the rhythm of the show, and how fast they tape, and or was it something that came naturally right off the bat?
Well, I don't want to sound like overly confident, but I didn't feel like the pacing was an issue for me.
Hmm.
I felt like I think if you want to look at my performance or whatever, you can see that I think over time, hopefully I become a little more relaxed, a little more in the beginning, I think that there was like stress to do it perfectly and to be perfectly line perfect and to just be like, oh, I hope they keep writing my character. I got to do a good job, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so I feel like for me it was much more just an amazing, amazing training and learning process. Because it's basically like you're doing a little bit of a play and you only do two takes of it, and you get to rehearse with your scene partner before, and then you get to have props and you get to have wardrobe and you get to have this cool set, and also the feeling of being on such a historic show is like it was a wonderful feeling for my heart, kind of just being around there, and especially hanging out with people like Deidre and her telling me about the history of the show and how long she's been shooting there and her experiences. I love like the history and the romance of things, so that felt really good, and I got to learn a ton, which I was super grateful for. But I never felt overly pressured.
That's good.
Yeah.
How far into your run did you find out that Lee Shin was going to make his maker? And did you know at the time that he was getting killed off that you would be back?
No, I didn't know that I would be back. And I found out just like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks before I was killed.
Hmm.
There was a lot of stuff going on at Days of Our Lives in terms of like I think the way they wanted to take the story and where how they wanted to shift characters and things like that. And my character was very much connected to Gabby Hernandez. And the storyline that they were doing with Gabby Hernandez at the time, they had to make a bunch of adjustments. And basically the head executive called me and he was really kind and he was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that we're gonna write your character off the show in about a week and a half." And I just said, "Oh, okay." And I was really sad at the time,
Of course.
because I felt like I was like, oh, maybe they don't like me, maybe I didn't do a good job, these things and that. And he was just really like, hey, this is like story based. He's like, this has nothing to do with you as a professional. We love having you on the show. He's like, and no one ever gets written off of Days forever. He's all, but we have to shift the storyline really quickly, and we're just going to do that. And it's not. I hope you don't take it personally. And so he was really kind about it. And yeah, yeah. I mean, I was kind of wondering though, because I felt like Lee was at a crossroads. He has that big scene with Marlena Evans, and he has this kind of come to love moment for himself and for his past, and like why he's been so obsessed with Gabby, and it hasn't been like a healthy, loving relationship, and why he's so obsessed with Stefan, and he's so obsessive, and he wants to dominate and win, and he's kind of ruthless in these ways. And at the same time, I thought that the writing was really cool, especially in that therapy sessions where he's kind of realizing why he's like that. And is he really like that, or is that his kind of programming or conditioning from his family and stuff? And I thought that the way they built up, his relationship with his dad and the history with his dad, and then it kind of comes to a head in that scene. I thought to myself, I was like, oh, well, they can kind of go two ways with Lee right now. They can like kind of keep Lee on the show and they can really like change up his character and make him very different and more dynamic and maybe more like human and less kind of attacking robotic. Um, or I thought, it's possible that they weren't going to do that and my character wasn't going to be on the show as much anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the way it went. But I loved those scenes working with Deidre. It was incredible. She's such a legend and she's such a kind, cool person.
I think
You've met her a bunch, I'm sure.
I have, yeah, I've met her God, a long time ago, 98 when I was out in California. That's a long time ago, actually. Um, what I think is great when people get to see actors do interviews, and like you mentioned, we met about 2 weeks ago, is how different you are. You're so bubbly and fun and kind, and to see that ruthless, character that you played just shows how great of an actor you are because of that. That you really were playing against your own personality type.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hope that I hope for the audience it comes off that way. I hope that I like what is it called? Like pay homage to the character and to the story and to the show and to the audience. That's always my main goal in anything that I do, whether I'm acting or shooting something, directing, camera operating. I always feel like what's most important is the audience. And I remember being a little kid and watching shows or whatever and feeling like, man, these people that are doing this, they've really like, just messed up the whole thing and they've like kind of forgotten about us. And
Mhm.
so in playing Lee, I didn't realize Lee was a bad guy for a long time. I always thought I was a total good guy. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, and then someone told me later, like, I don't know, it was probably like a year into it. I think Eric Martzoff said, like, he was like, dude, just like be a bad guy. Just be bad. Like, And I was like, I'm not a, Lee's not a bad guy, like, um, and that was really funny. And yeah, so I appreciate you saying that greatly, and I hope that I did like contribute to the story and for the audience.
Absolutely. And then when you came back, it was, a little bit different because you were working with Julie Dove as Connie, who ended up being your killer, and you were kind of haunting her in a way, and she was seeing
Totally.
visions of you. So what was that like stepping into Lee Shin in a different way?
I was trying to, I think as an actor, you're always trying to add a little bit of different like colors or layers, whatever you want to call them. People call them different things. And so since he's not really Lee, he's like a figment of Connie's imagination. I was trying to, that was my like intention was to bring forth this idea of Lee instead of the actual Lee Shin because I'm living inside of her mind. And it was really fun working with Julie. She's such a great person. And I was just so happy for her that she was doing a lot of episodes. I mean, she's been like a part of the Dual fan club for decades, and she's a really big fan of the show. And to be on a show that you're a fan of, I think is kind of every actor's dream. You know, I've been rewatching Seinfeld a lot, and there's so many amazing actors that did cameos on Seinfeld, and I can imagine what it was like when Seinfeld was shooting and what that was like in the 90s and just feeling like, oh my gosh, if I could just be on Seinfeld, what a experience. And so for her, I know that she was having that experience, and I was just more happy for her that she was getting a lot of episodes and working on the show a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've also been on a show called Zadama playing Bryce for the entire run, which has it'll be going into its fifth season when it comes back. What's like that role been like for you? And, how is he different from Lee Shin? And, what different colors do you bring to him?
Yeah, well, I mean, Bryce is bisexual, and so that is a color that I want to bring to the character, and I want to like pay I don't know, homage to the community that that is either, homosexual, bisexual, has I don't know, less like old school traditional
Mhm.
sexual preferences basically. And I want people to feel like it's real. And so I hope that I do that as Bryce. And also, I mean, the show is an African American show, an African American predominant cast. I'm the only cast member, I believe, that's not African American. And so I feel so grateful that Tyler Perry cast me as that character. I think that's so cool that he did that. And he's a very kind man, and I've worked really closely with him for years, and I really like him a lot. I think he's a really, really good person. And so to be around such a good, strong leader has been inspirational for me. And I would also say that Bryce hopefully is much more like sensitive than Lee Shin, and in the opposite in a lot of ways. Um, in terms of his vulnerability, hopefully. I think that that's been his thing is being more vulnerable.
Were you shooting simultaneously or did they
Hmm.
over? What was it like going from Lee Shin to Bryce and back again?
Oh. Oh, I mean, I never really thought about it. I was just so happy to be working. I couldn't believe that I was working. You know what I mean? Like to be working on two shows as an actor, you just need to be thanking your lucky stars.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. And I was trying to be really present and really grateful for that and for my family, like the financial aspect of it for my wife, my daughter, and to feel that and that security was incredible and is incredible. And I just felt really happy that a lot of times it kind of worked out. I don't know, I don't want to sound like pompous or something or whatever, but like it worked out really well. Like it would just happen to be that my character wasn't shooting on days when I would get the call from Satima. And then I would just go and shoot Satima and I'd fly back and I'd shoot Days of Our Lives. And I wasn't technically, I think, a series regular on Days of Our Lives. So they were able to help me, like they could move one of my shoot days back a week. And also, um, what was it? Zatima only shoots for 3 weeks. And in the beginning, we only shot for a week and a half, the very first season, because we shot 10 episodes. So we just got there 3 days before shooting. And I was shooting days all the way up until I literally drove from days to the airport to fly to Atlanta. And I had my wife like printing out, Ida, my wife was printing out the scripts in our apartment, and I got 8 of them out of the 10. And then I was pretty much just learning my lines and memorizing them right before we were shooting. And that was kind of stressful. And then I flew back and I shot Days of Our Lives a week and a half later. And then I got COVID, which makes perfect sense because it was just tons of traveling and it
Yeah.
was the COVID times.
The,
Um,
the germ box is flying back and forth.
yeah, that was that December. I don't know if you remember, but like kind of everyone got like this like third wave of COVID. Like if you
Yes.
hadn't got it yet, that's when, and it wasn't as bad, thank God.
Mhm.
But that's kind of when I got it. And yeah, and Days of Our Lives had totally prepared me for Zatima because Tyler Perry shoots really similarly. It's just the only difference really is that you're kind of on built sets that are working houses and stuff. So you'll like have this house and it doesn't have actual working plumbing, but you can shoot outside of it, you can go inside of it. They shoot in daylight, whereas Days of Our Lives is all on a soundstage. But I mean, I remember in the season one of Zatima, sometimes we wouldn't rehearse. Tyler Perry would just be like, "Hey, like you're gonna start outside the door, you're gonna knock, you're gonna come in. This is like kind of where you need to land for this part of the scene, and by the end of the scene, you need to be over at the counter, and we're gonna finish the scene." And like, all right, let's do it. And I think that Days of Our Lives had totally prepared me for that type of an experience, and I think that's also was helpful in booking Satima was that they knew I was on a soap opera, and they're like, he can handle the workload and the lack of prep. Yeah, yeah. So that was fortunate. And then Days of Our Lives was really happy that I wasn't going to be going and shooting for 9 months somewhere else, and they had to write me off the show like in the very beginning. This is back in like 2021. So yeah, that was really fortunate. It worked out really well.
And you just were on an episode of The Rookie. What was that experience like for you?
Oh yeah, The Rookie. That was so cool. I did a small guest star on The Rookie, and it was awesome because I've been listening to this book that the actor Chris Pine recommended on Armchair Expert, the podcast, and it's called The Oral History of Hollywood, and it's that they have like 10,000 hours of these interviews and from people who worked in the film industry all the way from kind of the 1910s to present, and they build up an oral history of what people actually said it was like. And so for me the biggest thing was going and working on the Paramount lot because Famous Players Latsky, I think is what it was originally called in 1912, and that became Paramount, the Paramount Studios that we know now. And to like be listening to this book every day about the history of Hollywood and going on to the Paramount lot that has been there for over 100 years and walking around and seeing the sound stages and where they shot these old films that I really admire and thinking about kind of the old stars that I really admire that worked on Paramount. And it was just so cool being on the Paramount lot. I felt like totally kind of dorky, but I got like Paramount mugs, from like the gift shop, and I got like a Paramount t-shirt that says Paramount since 1912, and I think it's 1912 or 1914. I forget the exact date, but yeah, man, that was the best part about that. And then also, anytime you get to work as an actor, you feel, or at least I feel, a little overwhelmed because it's you like spend all your time trying to work. That's why it's this kind of weird profession that you'll spend all this time trying to work. A lot of actors, you'll do things for like less money to try to be in this project that you really like. I know that a lot of A-list actors, they like turn down kind of big money so they can do more, work with more like auteur directors and stuff like that. And so it's kind of a weird thing that you're just trying so hard to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, Nathan Fillion was on One Life to Live a long time ago, and he still credits his soap days with how his ethic is now and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, totally. No, it's like it's amazing. Soap opera acting and the I don't know. I don't mean to be offensive, but like the training I received from it was just incredible.
yeah, that's not being disrespectful at all, actually.
Yeah, disrespectful. Yeah.
Yeah, not at all. And you are now back right now in your theater roots until May 18th, right?
Yes, sir.
Bar of a Tokyo Hotel is the name of the show.
Yep.
Tennessee Williams, right?
Yeah, Tennessee Williams in the bar of a Tokyo hotel. It's the West Coast premiere. It's never been done on the West Coast.
That's awesome. And you play bartender, correct?
Yeah, I play barman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
Japanese barman.
What's it like being back on the stage?
I mean, I love it. I love it. It's more it like because I have an athletic background. It's more athletic
Mm.
in terms of I also I've been watching kind of interviews with actors that do a lot of theater and then do film and do theater and do film. And when you're doing Broadway, you do like 8 shows a week, sometimes you'll do two in a day and you don't really have any days off. And we're doing 4 shows a week. We do Thursday, Friday, Saturdays at 8 p.m. and then Sundays a 3 p.m. matinee at the Hudson Theaters in Hollywood. And just like going every day and prepping and then rehearsing and then doing the performance and then trying to get enough sleep and then going back to the theater the next day and doing the same thing, even just 4 days out of the week. And staying like for me, staying up late is like I said, is tough, and then you get home, you have some adrenaline going, it's hard to go to sleep. And then I gotta wake up in the morning and, help with my daughter and take her to school and doing, do grocery shopping and wash dishes and like do all like the things that everyone does.
Yeah, the
Um,
real life stuff, right?
yeah, just normal life stuff, you know what I mean? And trying to like watch my diet while I'm doing it. That's what I've been focusing on, like making sure I'm not eating so much that I get sluggish, but
Mm.
not eating so little that I don't have enough energy for my brain to remember my lines when we're doing it. I've been thinking a lot about that. I've been watching videos of LeBron James. He talks a lot about his preparation and how he like approaches work playing in the NBA. And so like I try to take things from him because I feel like what he's doing is like magnificent and very intense. And so, but I try to take that stuff to help me with this. It feels more like of an athletic feat kind of doing the play. And I love performing live. I just like it's incredible. I would do it all the time if I
Get
could.
that immediacy of a reaction, which is probably a welcome thing after working on a set. Yeah, your
Yeah,
crew members and the cast will say nice job, applaud you, but to hear it from audience members in real time instead of relying on the internet and just reading comments must be great.
totally. Totally. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, to get a laugh is really exciting. And getting that immediacy from the audience. And then Jack Heller, the director, he told me something cool that like Uta Hagen said. She was a really famous acting kind of coach, and she was part of, I think, the group theater originally. And she said that in theater, it's like if you don't get it, like if you don't reach the other actor, you don't like hit this thing that you're aiming for, you're not really connecting with them, then
Mm,
it's like you have the next line and the next line, and I'm going to do it and I'm going to like achieve this goal for the character. And then it runs through and it happens once and it never happens again. And every show is different. Um, that's been really, really cool to like experience that firsthand.
for sure. And you just started the run, but have you had any Days fans yet that either A, didn't know you were in it, or B, specifically came because you were in it?
I haven't, let's see. I don't think I've had any Days fans come just yet, but I've been having a bunch of Days fans messaging me and being like, "Hey, I'm going to come on this weekend," or like, "Hey, I'm coming into LA," because a lot of Days fans don't live in LA. And I mean, yeah, I had one awesome gentleman like reach out to me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town this weekend. He's, I'm definitely going to come see your show. Thanks for posting it on social media. I got all the information. I'm coming." And so that's like the best, man. You know what I mean? Like, how cool is that?
Absolutely. And if anybody who's watching the interview is in California or will be in California until May 18th, you can see this acting. Uh, I lost my whole train of what I was going to just say in terms of complimenting you, but you can buy tickets at the link below, which is here in the copy. What would you like to say to the fans who have followed you from day, well, even from the beginning of your career until days? I know soap fans are very passionate about their actors, so what would you like to say
Man,
to them?
I mean, all the Days fans, what I would say is that I don't think you can fully describe the appreciation, or I can't fully describe the appreciation I have for the Days fans. Um, I've met a lot of Days fans at Days of Days. I've done interviews and got to like, read these people's letters that they would write to me, and I tried to respond to them as much as I could. And the the Days fans are so, and maybe it's just daytime or soap opera fans in general, but they're really like salt of the earth people that I get along with really well. And I like their honesty and directness. And I think it's really cool that we've been able to like tell a story for decades, and that I can be part of that. And because I'm just a small part of the big, big thing of Days and for Days fans. And a lot of people I've met, they've been watching the show for 30 years, and they've been watching it with their grandmother, and they watched it with their mother or their dad and family members. And to be a part of that, and that they're like welcoming, and they're like, "Hey, we like Lee Shin," or they're like, "Oh man, you're such a mean guy. Like, I hate you, but it's great to meet you in person," you know, and then be like, "Oh man, I started kind of liking Lee, and I was like kind of rooting for Lee instead of Stefan," like, and they tell you these things. And yeah, I can't really fully express the gratitude I have for all the like love and positive things that people have said. It's been wonderful.
That's awesome. And anybody who has met you knows you're the exact opposite, like I mentioned earlier, of that character. Remington, thank you so much for this interview. It was really great talking with you at length. And guys, check him out on stage until May 18th. Again, ticket link in the bio. We obviously here at Soap Hub wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brian. Thanks for inviting me, man. I'm stoked. I'm stoked to be able to hang out with you.
Hopefully, it's the first of many.
Yeah, absolutely.